Chapter 7. Everyone sat in the same place as they did for dinner. The room was filled with a variety of sweet scents coming from the variety of breakfast foods from the vampire's plates. The pets were treated with only a half of a grapefruit and a small slice of toast. Even so, I was grateful for it. Master thankfully looked well rested, and even though I didn't sleep after that little incident, I felt well rested as well. That small amount of sleep that I got was probably more than my usual amount of sleep at the pet shop. Even the pain on my back had eased. All in all, I was pretty relieved with how things had turned out so far today. So, I've been thinking about getting Doe branded, Xander spoke. I choked a bit on the last bit of my toast as Doe somehow tensed up even more in his lap. She already seemed to be pretty shaken before, but that sealed the deal. Why? Master asked like it was the dumbest thing he's heard. Xander shrugged. Why not? The branding company is coming into town soon, so I figured that I could take the opportunity. My stomach turned a bit. That's actually the stupidest idea I've ever heard, Master spoke as he took another bite of his cream-filled crepes. I let out a soft sigh of relief at his words. What would you even get branded on her? Xander laughed softly to himself as Doe silently grew more fearful. I was thinking of getting my name going right down her back. I cringed as I imagined what that would feel like. Why don't you just tattoo that on her? Master asked. Tattoos are boring and less entertaining to watch. He sipped at his drink that oddly wasn't blood. Did you know that they actually have to tie the pets down before they brand them? It's fun as hell to watch. Doe was shaking in absolute fear as she hid her terrified face behind her short, brown hair. Master seemed to think that the whole thing was stupid, so I relaxed a little. Even as selfish as that may seem, I'm glad that I wasn't her. I guess. Have fun with that. Master sighed. You should do it with me. Xander invited. I'd rather not. Xander's shoulders slumped. Why? Brands are ugly, and I really don't want my pet to be immobile for a week, Master said as he sipped his glass. Xander pouted his lips out like a child as his eyes narrowed. Well, who else am I gonna get to go with me? He proclaimed. Master sighed. If you're so persistent ongoing, then I'm sure Layla would be more than happy to go, he presented. She'd probably want to get some floral shit branded onto her pet's back. Xander rose a brow. You know her pet is dead, right? Master paused mid-sip, slowly setting his glass back on the table. How? He asked. Xander leaned back in his seat, linking an arm around Doe so that she was forced to lean back with him. Layla sucked her dry a couple nights ago. She told me that she was bored with how her pet acted. Well, there goes my appetite once again. Master's finger tapped against the table a few times before he spoke. Okay, so it wasn't my fault, he concluded. I turned my head towards Master questionably. They didn't even care that her pet was killed. They just acted as if she was just some stupid pet fish. Xander shook his head. Nah, she probably would have been on your case if it was. Master scoffed. If she was bored of her pet, then I don't see why it matters. I should be on her case for wasting my medical supplies on a pet she didn't even want. Xander laughed a little at that even though Master's voice was completely serious. Master took the last bite of his crepes. She probably knows better than to mess with you anyways, Xander added. My eyes widened a tad at this. Master finished off the blood in his glass with a satisfied exhale. Probably, he pushed his chair back a bit and stood up, causing me to stand straighter. Even so, she'd probably still go with you. She'd probably like to watch. I couldn't help but feel bad for Doe. She just had to sit and listen to all of this. I'll ask. Where are you going so soon? Chapter 8. I stared down at the city that I once lived in from my place on Master's windowsill, holding one of its pillows against my body as I watched the moon take over the sky. Master dropped me off after dinner, leaving me to my own accord. He told me I could do whatever I wanted while he was gone as long as I didn't break anything or disorganize his workspace. He said something about a meeting with Lord Bronwyn. Luckily he decided not to take me with him. Lord Bronwyn has been the lord of this city even before my parents were born, and I really didn't want to have to meet him. Master probably knew that I would have been a nervous wreck if he made me go with him. I jumped as the door flew open. Pet. Master yelled as he stomped into the room, slamming the door behind him. My eyes went wide as he spoke. He's never called me that before. His footsteps echoed through the room as he stormed towards his desk. His body was tense as his eyes searched the room. I shrunk back as soon as his eyes met with mine, holding the pillow closer as if it would protect me from anything. Why, yes? I could tell that he was mad, it was written all over his face. That and a bit of annoyance. Apparently the meeting didn't go very well? He sat down into his desk chair as his fingers drummed against the armrest. Come here, he commanded, his emerald eyes trapping mine. A new kind of fear rushed through my body as I froze in place for a second. I tried to mentally prepare myself for what he would do to me. Angry masters usually lead to damaged pets. Still, I followed his order, slowly pushing myself off of the windowsill and taking quick steps towards him. He held a slight glare as he watched my movements like he was waiting for me to do something wrong. He continued his stare as I stood in front of him. A squeal escaped me when I felt his hands on my waist before I found myself sitting on his lap. His grip was tight even though he was only holding me for a split second. A list of possible outcomes of what would happen to me flew through my head as I sat back against his hard chest. Even when sitting, he still towered over me. Master grumbled lowly to himself as the chair turned towards the desk. He hunched down so that his head sat near my shoulder, dangerously close to my neck. I couldn't move away. I swallowed the sudden lump in my throat, clenching my hands into fists in an act to stop myself from shaking. My mouth was too dry to say anything. What would I even say? I flinched back as he began shuffling through the organized papers on his desk. He would pick up a certain paper and place it in a certain file, some would find their way into the trash. My stomach turned when he paused on a specific pile of papers, a certain page sticking out from the others. What's this? He asked, sitting up straight as he dragged the paper out from under the others. His voice was oddly calmer, yet it was still evident that he was angry. I tensed as he lifted the paper up, showing the large sketch of a dream catcher. I told myself earlier that I would hide that after I got out of the shower. He peered his head down for an answer. I'm sorry, I blurted, I should have asked you first before I drew on it. It was a blank piece of paper, so I just assume. I cut myself off. I've learned that excuses never work. They only make the person angrier. I was a bit surprised to see that Master was actually admiring it. You drew this? He asked. His voice had calmed down. I nodded slowly. His eyes trailed down to each of the feathers and beads. Where did you learn how to draw like this? My eyes widened at his sudden interest. He didn't even seem to be mad about it. I cleared my throat, placing my hands on my lap. I wanted to be a tattoo artist, so I've been drawing for a while, I admitted quietly. He shifted his eyes from the paper, looking at me questioningly. You? A tattoo artist? I know that it sounded weird. A short little, red head wanting to be a tattoo artist even as a little girl. Chapter 9. I keep being more and more impressed at each meal. I just found it amazing that the slaves could make this much food 3 times a day, even for us pets as well. I couldn't quite tell what Master had on his plate, but it smelled delicious. Everything smelled delicious. I had already finished my dinner, figuring that it would be a good way to please Master. It was only a small portion of salmon cooked in olive oil, so it was easy to eat quickly before I could somehow lose my appetite. Yet again, a food that's good for the blood. Master had decided to keep me on his lap this time. For what reason? I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that it's not the same reason Xander keeps dough on his. So far, it hasn't. Master had just been drinking from the blood in his glass instead of drinking from me. He's bound to drink from me eventually, right? I quickly shook the thought from my head, hurriedly finding something else to focus on. My eyes shifted over to dough. Xander had finally decided to let her eat. I was getting a bit worried about her. This tastes weird to me, Master said plainly. Xander looked over at him. You've already eaten half of it and you're just now noticing that it tastes weird? Master shrugged, cutting a large piece from his meal and lifting it with his fork. It didn't taste weird until just now, Master stated. Did one of the slaves try to poison it or something? Can vampires even be poisoned? Chloe. I sat up straighter at the sound of my name. Turning my head up a bit, I spoke. Yes, Master? My eyes widened a bit as he held the fork in front of my face. Try this and tell me if it tastes weird to you. He wanted me to try some of his meal? I haven't seen any of the other pets do that. What if it really is poisoned? Regardless of that, I obeyed. I have no idea how anyone could think that this tasted weird. It was quite possibly the best thing I've tasted in a long time. The different flavors danced around my tongue as I chewed it slowly, savoring it like it was the last meal I'll ever have. Master was looking down at me, an eyebrow raised as he waited for a response. I reluctantly swallowed it, not wanting to make him wait any longer. Everything tastes fine to me, Master. It was more than just fine, it was amazing. If that tasted weird, then I can't even imagine what it was supposed to taste like. Master just hummed a response. Why didn't you just let me try it? Xander asked. That didn't even occur to me. Why would he choose his pet to try something over his friend? I don't know where you've been, Master replied plainly. Did you just call me dirty? Master paused, turning his head towards Xander. Yes. I had to keep myself from smirking. Xander had a fake look of despair on his face. I'm offended. He grumbled. Master took another bite of his food, peering at Xander from the corner of his eye. Good. I still haven't gotten used to the number of stairs that we needed to go up in order to get to Master's room. Nor had I gotten used to the complete silence between us as we walked there. It always made me nervous, like it was building up some sort of anticipation. A blood-curdling scream rang throughout the hallway as we approached the door to Master's room, causing me to stop dead in my tracks. I watched as a blonde pet bolted her way down the hallway, a smirking vampire a little ways behind her. She wasn't wearing a collar. The vampire took leisurely steps towards her as she ran away, like a lion stalking its next victim. My eyes followed her as she ran past us. My heart sank a bit. She couldn't outrun him, even she should know that. The vampire became a blur before he was right in front of the girl, forcing her into a skidding halt. He grabbed her frail, shaking body by her arm, his smirk growing more menacing as his fangs came into view. She didn't even have time to beg before the vampire sank his teeth into her neck, earning another high-pitched scream. I just stood there, horrified. I've seen that girl before, and that was not her master.